wrong. But good Thursday, everybody. It is everybody's favorite day of the week. Jeez.
Day 4.
It's day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. And,
oh, boy.
Man, I'm trying to get into this routine again. You know, flying solo, I said it this week already, Frank. I do not like flying solo.
You should have called me. I would have been on with you every day. We'd have been
but
banging elbows, high-fiving, the whole drill.
I know. So we're off to a fantastic start there. It is day 4, and we're going to have more just incredible information from Mr. Frank Scalish here on day 4.
We are.
We're going to get after it. I've got a couple questions for you, and then we'll get into the subject matter that you're going to discuss today. But first, a couple of housekeeping items today. Once you get into the subject that you're going to get into, afterwards, we're going to try and take some phone calls on the Sunline hotline.
Yeah, please.
Now, remember, Frank can hear you, okay, but you can't hear Frank. So what you have to do is ask the question, then hang up and listen to the answer because we are delayed about 30 seconds. So you will get plenty of opportunity to listen to Frank's answer once he responds to your question.
If I respond.
What do you mean if? Yeah, you will respond. That was pretty funny, man. I punched the button for Matt's mic, not mine.
Yeah, but we heard you. It was just like you were screaming it from the other side of the block.
Kind of funny. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, and then the second thing, we will keep an eye on Matt. Obviously, he's fishing the Smith Lake Open down in Alabama. They've had just an enormous amount of rain down there. I don't know if you've seen some of the news footage. A lot of flooding taking place.
He better go ahead.
No, the plan is he's going to be back on Monday, and he will be in studio on Monday, and he is actually working on getting next week booked. So we will have the website up on Sunday. You can check on there what the plan is for next week. I know I'm working on a couple of things for him, but we will have everything listed on the website Sunday night sometime. Could be late, just depending on when I get back from OU Texas this weekend.
Nice.
Big matchup.
Nice.
Anyway.
So they're getting like literally torrential downpours down there. So when's that tournament start?
Today.
Okay, good. So everybody's on the water, so nobody gives a crap. All right. So when here's what I figured out. When that lake, I've fished that lake a ton, and I fished it in major torrential downpours.
Yeah.
So what you have, because it's part of this lake, in fact, a lot of this lake almost represents a canyon type reservoir, steep walls, steep banks. I run and fish everywhere the water's flowing into the lake from those runoff areas. The spotted bass fly up in there because the bait fish fly up in there with all the stuff running into the lake. The bait fish get in there, the spots get in there. I hope Matt keys in on that.
There's a lot of bodies of water across the nation that, especially this time of the year, you clue into that running water thing is massive.
It's crazy because all the shad are moving. So there's probably schooling activity going on, probably, underspin, spoons, that type of thing going on right now. And these shad are moving. So when the water, all of a sudden, when you get all those big rains and the current starts blowing in, those bait fish start to go with the current. They start to swim up that current. So they love those washouts where that water's just pouring in there. I found that out in a local tournament down there late in the day, and it saved my rear end. It's just whatever happens, that lake plays to that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool.
We'll get into that someday here on day 4, but why don't you mention what you're going to discuss today, and then I have a quick story.
Okay. All right. So today, what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to blow through this fall to winter transition because we're not there yet. So I'm going to skim it, but I'm skimming it to give you guys I'm going to cover this transition in massive detail in a few weeks. As soon as we get closer, I'm going to cover it in massive detail. So I'm going to do a quick blow by that. I'm going to do a quick going over some pre-fishing before you get to the lake, things that you need to do before you go to a lake, especially if it's a new lake. And then I want to talk about a lure.
Okay. And we have some video.
Oh, yeah. Because you guys are not going to believe this, and it's fall, and this lure plays right now. So I really, really want to talk about it because it kind of goes against the norm. Ooh,
Very
against
nice.
the norm. Against the norm-en.
Oh.
No. What an idiot.
Very
what an
nice.
idiot. I'm an idiot.
No, that's pretty cool. That's good right there. All right. I am asking Frank for some advice now. I had a situation that occurred yesterday. It's somewhat fishing related. Doesn't have anything to do with the fishing company. But what I want to know, I'm going to take advantage of Frank being on the show and me kind of controlling this right now. So I'm going to ask Uncle Frank, did I handle this the right way, or should I have handled it different? And just quivered up into the fetal position and go, you win.
Oh, no. I don't like the fetal position.
All right. So here's the situation. Everybody, hopefully, if you watch this show, knows about what I classify as the retirement boat. I bought a friend of mine's boat for a very, 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 very low price. The thing only had 17 hours on the motor. It's 14, 15 years old. It probably only has maybe 30 hours on it now. It's in just unbelievable condition. But one of the things that is starting to deteriorate is the decals on the Mercury motor.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're starting to peel off and stuff.
And they do.
Because of time. Yeah, it just peels off. So I was like, all right, well, I want to get kind of an updated version of the Mercury decal kit. So I went on eBay and I found one and got it, and it was some official Mercury parts dealer or whatever. Anyway, I got it. It was like $40-50. All right? Comes in, and I'm thinking, dude, I do not have time to do this. There's got to be a sign store or a decal place that if I bring the cowling in, they'll put it on.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, man, this is a piece of cake. Here, zit, 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 done, gone, get out of here. Give me $100, $50, whatever it was. All right. So I'm really been pushed for time. This is a very, very busy time of the year for me with the start of basketball season and bowling and everything else, along with everything that's going on with the show. So I was like, all right, I'm going to call this place here in Norman, Oklahoma. So I call them up. Not going to say the name of the company, but I will say this. It is a national franchised company, and their international headquarters is in Texas.
Oh, well, just narrow it right down there, big guy.
Okay.
Come here, you.
Not going to say who it is, though. All right. So I decide to make the call that I'm going to call up this place. Very, very cool looking cat, by the way. That's the one you got in Alabama, right?
Yeah, that's Bama.
Very nice. Oh, look at that.
This cat's a lover, man, but she kills everything.
Oh, it's good. Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I call this place up, and I said, hey, my name is Mark. I said, here's what I have. I have a outboard motor cowling that I need the stickers taken off, and I have the kit, the official kit for the new stickers, and can you just put it on the cowling? Notice I said her immediate response was, sir, we don't do that. And I go,
what?
Okay. I said, are you a sign place? Because I thought that you did like vinyl signs and stuff like that. And her comeback was, look, I just told you we don't do that. And besides, I wouldn't put anything on anybody's property that we didn't print. And I go, I'm willing to sign a waiver or whatever. I said, I only paid $40-50 for the stickers. If you mess it up, I don't have a problem with that. It's cool. I just need some help because I really don't have the time to take them off and then put these back on. Click.
She hung up on you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my, I'd be driving over there. Oh, my God, I'd be losing my mind.
I know a lot of people out there are going to think that, Mark was probably screaming and yelling. Dude, this is one of the few conversations where I go into I am customer mode. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I didn't cuss. But I did call back.
Oh, I would have. I would have burned the phone up.
So I call her back. I go, listen, don't hang up on me. I said, all I want to do, I am very, very busy. Please, can you help me out? Sir, I just told you that we do not do this. All right? In fact, I really don't care if you have any business of mine at all. I was like,
what?
I go, look, seriously. She goes, I don't like your attitude. I don't like your voice. You're screaming and yelling at me. I go, no, I'm just a loud person. I said, I'm not mad. I just want to get taken care of. Click.
Oh boy.
All right. So here's what I did.
And, well, you're a better man than me, because I would have said who it was on this show, and I would have said the place, and I would have said the chick's name.
I know, but I'm not going to go down this path.
Yeah,
anyway, so I also asked her before she hung up. I asked her, I said, well, look, I know you're a franchise. And she goes, we've been in business for 7 years here. I said, I know, I've used your services before. I said, I don't understand why you won't do this. You want me to sign a waiver? I'll sign a waiver. I don't care. You know, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm requesting your national headquarters and who you report to from a franchise ownership standpoint. Because corporate always talks to the franchise. Somebody is responsible, even though they own it. You know, they still have communication, all that. She wouldn't give it to me. And just like what I said before, she ends up hanging up on me on the second time. So I was like, all right, you want to play that game? So I found the corporate complaint, for lack of a better term, number for this franchise. Mm-hmm. And I called up, and guess what I got? One guess.
A voicemail recording.
Voicemail. So this is the message that I left. You know, hey, I appreciate you having this opportunity to voice my opinion on an experience that I just had from one of your franchise locations. But the likelihood that you're going to call me back, I'd place it at about 10%. So if the 10% actually does happen, I look forward to speaking to you about the magnificent customer service that your franchise offered me today. I hope that 10% happens. Click. Now, I ask you, Frank, did I get a call back?
No.
I did get a call back.
Oh, money. Okay,
yeah,
so
I was in class, though. I'm sitting here at my desk in the classroom, and I see this number I don't recognize. I'm like, huh.
You're like, class recess.
Could it be? No, so I looked up at my students, and I go, all right, folks, stop what you're doing. You are about to witness an act that I did not think was going to happen when it comes to customer service.
I'm so glad you specified that.
All right. Yeah. All right. So get her on the phone. Some lady calls me, you know, Mr. Mark, I think is what she said. Mr. Mark. We would like to just get some details on the situation that you went through. And I went through the whole thing. And I said, look, I'm not mad, but I'm mad. But here's why I called you guys. All right. Not one single time was I offered a solution for the situation that I had. I would have been more than willing to say, hey, look, man, we don't do this, but here's what I can do for you. All right. I'm going to cut you a deal, and we will actually reproduce the decal for you. It's going to cost you a little bit more, and then we'll put it on there. But you know what? Because you didn't really know this, I'm gonna cut you, 30, 40% off. Whatever. We'll get you taken care of.
Okay. Dude, so far, I like it.
I would have been a customer for life. That's what I told her.
I said,
all she had to do is take care of me.
Right.
That's it. Offer a solution. I said, all people want to do is run away from conflict or things that they think that they can't deal with. I said, now your name is on this location, and I'm unhappy, and I'm probably not going to visit your company ever again.
Well, apparently the young lady working there is really not a thinker.
Yeah.
Because there was a million ways to handle your situation.
A million.
Million.
I cannot stand being hung up on.
Right? Oh, I know.
So here's what I thought. All right, this lady's got some pull. She's in corporate. She's gonna do something. All the response I got after I explained the story and explains what I felt should have happened or could have happened to take care of the customer, she goes, well, I will note everything that you told me, Mr. Mark, and I appreciate you calling. So I just want to tell you, have a nice day. What?
Well, they're independently owned.
That's it.
Yeah, they're independently owned.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, they own the franchise. They're independently owned, and the main company has only so much latitude over what each franchise's owner is doing and how they're doing it. I
was mad. I didn't go off on her, and I didn't scream and yell. I was just like,
it's not her fault. It's not her fault.
She had nothing to do with it. But as the corporate liaison between corporate and the franchise, I mean, she could have called the lady up and said, hey, look, let's take care of this dude. All right, can we not do this? Can we not? I said, you will have a customer for life. None of that ever happened. Never got a phone call from her. And I will never ever visit that franchise or any of the other franchises across this nation ever again.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. I'm very particular that way. I treat people like I want to be treated, and the minute I get kicked a little bit, I never patronize the place again.
Yeah. Did I do the right thing, Frank?
Yeah, you did nothing outrageous. Nothing.
I didn't scream. I didn't yell.
Nothing.
I didn't beeline down there and go, what are you doing? Or anything.
Look, the reality of the situation is this. The gal could have taken that cowling in. She could have done that job. It's literally a 25-minute job, okay, because I've done my own. It's literally a 25-minute job getting the old stickers off, cleaning the cowling, and putting the new ones on. Big whoop, right?
I know.
So she could have made herself $125, $150, and gained a customer out of it. Instead, she didn't want to deal with it. Now, what I know about today is I know that there's a lot of places today, small companies, they can't find employees. Nobody wants to work anymore. And the businesses are struggling, especially some of the smaller service businesses and restaurants. Okay. So when you have an opportunity to gain a customer for life, okay, you have to take it, especially today. So I think you did the right thing. I think it was bad on her part. I don't think she's a thinker. I don't know her, so I'm only voicing my uneducated opinion.
Yeah.
But I handle business dealings and people much differently.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say on it.
Dude, it has been entrenched in me for my entire career at UPS and really with this company. Take care of the customer. Do everything you can to take care of the people that put food on the table for you.
You have to.
And it doesn't work that way anymore. Get out of here. Boom, click.
Yeah, I know. It's our society's tolerance level is getting less and less every day.
Yeah.
I think we're not getting into this. Never mind.
Yeah. No, I think somebody on the instant feedback over on the YouTube page actually mentioned the company earlier.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into this because yeah.
I'm not going to mention it, but somebody figured it out.
Anyway,
I am so glad that you told me I handled that in a very meaningful manner, respectful manner. I tried to be respectful.
You actually handled it better than I would have because I have no tolerance for that crap.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
No.
So,
okay.
If anybody out there is looking to get decals or signs or any of that stuff done, don't go to a national franchise company that is nationwide.
Go to a mom and pop.
Exactly.
Go to a mom and pop shop.
I think their colors are red, white, and blue.
Jeez,
anyway,
dude.
Moving on, Frank.
Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on, guys, because we can't do this talk anymore.
No, we're done. Thank you for the advice. Thank you, folks, for letting me vent a little bit. I will. A little footnote real quick, Frank. I did order a decal kit from Amazon. Going to be here today. I'm just going to do it myself.
Money. Good job.
All right.
Yeah, I got one. The guy that I bought my boat from had a decal kit. My legend is white. It's white and blue, white with blue metal flake on it.
Yeah.
And he got decals to match. The Mercury decals match the Legend boat. And so he put them on, but then he bought a Mercury motor cover and had them match also. Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? And I'm having just a little corner of the decal peeling off right now. So this winter, I'm going to buy another set of them and replace them in the spring. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Have to say this, Frank, we are getting ready to get into the time of the year. One of my favorite times of the year to fish, when the
it's banging.
Really get moving. They're starting to feed up. And I know a lot of the fans out there, this is it. It's not the spawn, but I'm telling you, man, it's some of the funnest times that you're going to have on the water.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing. Okay, so I said that I was going to talk about fall to winter transition, but you guys, please bear with me because I'm skimming it. I'm giving you details, but short sections of details, because we're going to get into this in mass later in a couple of episodes. So here's what happens. Mark's 100% correct. Water temperatures are starting to drop by a few digits every night or every week. Okay. Water temperatures are starting to drop. Everything in the system's coming alive. We're still prior to the turnover, and everything's starting to come alive again. And the shad are moving, the shad are going to the bank. So this time of year, real quick, this time of year, you know it. Spinnerbaits, square bills, buzz baits, top waters. I mean, this is when the system's starting to go. Okay. You'll catch as many smaller bass up shallow as you will big bass right now. After the turnover, you're going to start catching more big bass on the bank than little bass. Okay. So that's what's really transitioning right this second. Okay. The schooling activity comes first, then everything goes to the bank. They stay on the bank for a while. Little fish start to vacate. Big fish move in. That's the fall. That's what we all wait for. Okay. Yeah. So now what happens now is, as the temperatures start to decrease, the water temperatures start to decrease. Okay. This is when you start to get into the late fall stuff. The bass start to move off the bank again. So what you're going to see is you're going to still catch some on the bank, with square bills and, spinner baits, chatterbaits, etc. You're still going to have that shallow bite going, but now they're going to start to move off very near the bank, maybe only a longer cast away from the bank, and you'll catch them midway to the boat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the first movement. Okay. And when that happens, one of my go-to baits, it's called a Norman deep baby end. All right. It's one of my go-to baits when the fish start to move off the bank. It's a 2-inch bait. It's kind of small. Whoop.
Oh, hang on.
Not that yet.
I know, I'm trying. Jeez. All right, here we go.
All right.
There we go.
It's the Norman deep baby end. Okay. It dives down right around 6 to 8 feet. I'll throw this on 12-pound fluoro and 10-pound fluoro. 10-pound to get it down a little bit deeper, 12-pound to make it run normal, 6 to 8-ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speed clip.
Always a speed clip on my crankbaits. You guys know me by now. It's always a speed clip on my crankbait. So anyway, so this bait starts to come into play. Now I know it's square bill time. Okay, I know it's square bill time, but the square bills only go so that far. The deep baby end and the speed end, the Norman speed end, get down where the square bills don't, but essentially do the same thing. Now I know you look at this and you go, "Hey, that's not a square bill." No, it's not. But here I want to show you a video. This is why I love this bait so much. You can throw this bait anywhere you want. Watch this bait come through these willow bushes. Now, this particular time, I happen to be fishing in the spring, early spring. But watch this bait come through these bushes. You look at the upper bush, the upper right corner bush. You see that?
Yeah, here, let me go back.
I just threw a 6 to 8 foot diving crankbait through a bush that's in 4 feet of water, and watch this thing. It just plows right through that bush. And if everybody knows willow bush branches flex and give, it's one of the hardest bushes to get a bait through. And this thing just pushed its way right through all those branches. I mean, look at that. That's why I throw this bait like a madman this time of year when these fish start to go into the little deeper stuff, because it comes through everything, and it comes over and through the rocks even better than it comes through these bushes. Now, the day I was filming this video, which this video never actually aired, but the day I was filming this video, I was catching largemouth, northern pike, and crappies doing this. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. I had been fishing the deep baby end because I'm a Norman freak. And eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the Norman crankbait system, and I'm going to explain to you the entire Norman system and how to fish it, because Norman is probably, in my opinion, one of the best crankbait brands out there. But each bait has a purpose. Each bait does a specific thing. It's not just you buy a crankbait and you throw the crankbait. This is an actual fishing system, and I'm going to get into that in the wintertime when guys aren't fishing as much. We'll get into detail on that, and I got some new announcements for Norman too, but that'll be later too. But so anyway, so we're back to this fall transition. So and there's some new colors on the deep baby end on the paint shop. Holy Shad, I think, is up there. And that's a color that I did originally in the speed end and the deep little end, and we put it in the deep baby end. But the thing with the Holy Shad color is, you know how when you get to a lake, sometimes you have. Did I say something wrong?
No, I just got a message on the other instant feedback that cracked me up.
Okay, because
a T-shirt idea. No, it's a T-shirt idea based upon what you're saying and based upon that video. It is golden.
All right,
well, if we can pull you off, I'll save it.
Save it, dude. Save it. Yeah. So I digress. So anyway, so I designed this color. You know how when you go fishing and the water's slightly stained, it's almost clear, but it might not be clear. It's got that greenish tint to it. This Holy Shad color was designed for that color water to clear water. Okay. It's a new color, so it's not had a lot of fishing time in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But you guys need to check it out. You need to check it out because I catch a lot of fish on it. You got to understand something, and I'm like going a mile a minute because I want to get back into this fall transition thing. When I design colors, I fish them for almost a year before we put them in to play. So I have experience on these colors on all types of water conditions. And when I design a color, sometimes I design a color for a specific thing. Holy Shad was designed for a specific thing. Moderately stained to clear water. That's what Holy Shad was designed for. Now, when you look at the bait in real life, when you get it, it's going to look semi-transparent. But don't let that fool you, because the way that I have the pearl and the metallic overlay, it almost turns solid in the water. It's a very natural looking color. So you'll want to see, you'll see it when you see it.
All right. Hey, real quick. We've mentioned this before on day 4, but do you think this is another situation where people get so, let's just call it programmed to throw certain things in certain times of the year?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh no, I'm throwing a square bill. I'm not.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there but a square bill this time of the year.
Yeah, and that's that's fine too. But I'm just telling you, this deep baby N, the Norman deep baby N it's a workhorse. I mean, this bait here, you saw it. Look, you saw it come through the bush top. Yeah. The reason I chose that particular video clip was because it's really easy to run a bait down a blowdown, down a big trunk blowdown with no bark on it. It's real easy to run a crankbait down that. You can almost run any crankbait down those things. It's the bushes that are a pain in the rear end because all those little branches going all different ways, snag the hooks on the crankbaits. This bait comes through that. And willow bushes are the worst because the branches move a lot. So they wrap and they do all this stuff. You saw the bait come through that. You know what I mean? That's like legit. That's really what I was fishing. And actually what happened was I had taken a nice bass out of that bush in the video. And then I wanted to get a cast into that bush to show exactly what happened, because we were so far away from it when I made the cast and caught the fish that I needed to get closer to get the camera on there to show how the bait actually came through that particular willow bush. So anyway, so that's the thing. It's the Norman deep baby end. Don't overlook it in the fall, you guys, because you'll be sad you did. And in the fall you're going to stay with your traditional minnow type patterns. Whether it's holy shad, nutter shad, chartreuse and blue, or lavender shad. You're going to want to stay shaddy in the fall. As the temperatures cool, you could start to gravitate towards the reds again. Even though it's not spring, the wilder temperature will start to cool. Reds will start to come back a little bit. Not as dominant as in the spring, though. Red is more dominant in the spring, always. But you can still catch them in red in the cold water. So anyway, okay, so now these fish, look at me, I'm like a madman.
That's awesome.
So anyway, so now these fish are starting to move and gradually get off the bank a little bit. So here's what's going to happen next, okay? All of a sudden, you're going to stop or slow way down getting bites on shore. And the offshore game is going to come back into play. But it's not going to be like the offshore game in summer. Okay, summertime, these bass will go to things that are not connected to the mainland. In fall and winter, they're going to go offshore, but it's got to be connected to the mainland in some capacity. Okay? And the water temperatures are going to get below 50 degrees. I got a video out that's running right now. They had actually ran 2 weeks, 3 weeks early. But I got a video that's running right now that I did I think it was like the first week in November, where I'm catching them 12 to 15 feet deep offshore. It's freezing cold outside, and I'm catching them like a madman, fishing grass edges where the creek channels turn in to go in towards shore. That's what I'm focusing on in this video. And we plowed them. I mean, I plowed them, but so now you're talking about getting into this offshore connected to the mainland stuff, late fall. Okay. Late fall, early winter. Now all of a sudden you go, well, hey, isn't time to throw the Alabama rig? The Flash Mob Junior is king that time of year. Yes. The Flash Mob Junior is king late fall throughout the winter to early spring. Okay. But if you follow these fish out with your crankbaits, you're going to find where they winter at, because the last stages of this late fall crankbait fishing, all right, is positioning these fish for winter. If you find them in that stage, you're probably only 50 to 100 yards away from where they're going to spend the rest of their entire winter at. So this is what I did. I found these fish on this lake. I went back there 2 weeks later with the Flash Mob Junior and caught them till I couldn't put the boat in the water anymore because it iced over. If I didn't follow those fish out, I would have never known where they wintered. And I found 9 places on this lake where they winter at. And when I tell you the fish were ganged up there, it was a freak show every time I went. It was a complete unadulterated freak show. The last time I started catching them on the crankbaits, the water temperature was 39 degrees. So wow. Don't get fooled and think, oh, the water temperature's in the 50s or below 50, we got to put the crankbait down because they won't eat it anymore. That's crap, because 39 degrees. And then when I was doing the Flash Mob Junior stuff, I wanted to see if they would still hit a crankbait. And I did catch a few on it. Now, not as many, because what happened was those fish were on that structure. They pull out and they suspend off of it. So it lend itself much better to the Flash Mob Junior than the crankbait at that water temperature. We will get way detailed in this in a different show when we get closer to the time.
All
but
right,
did I get your interest, boys?
Oh, yeah. Here, I'm going to throw this up here real quick. Make sure when we go to that, do you have an illustration of what you're talking about, Frank? I'm sure we will when you dive deeper into it, right?
Yeah, and I was going to do illustrations for this, but the truth of the matter is I didn't decide I was going to talk about this until about 8:00 this morning. I got a DM from Ty, and he's like, "Hey, dude, looking forward to the show, doing some map work on Lake Norman. What are you talking about today?" And so I messaged him back and said, "I don't know."
Oh, Frank.
So instead of me drawing illustrations, I was on my in my video hard drive trying to find these clips of the Norman going through the bushes. So that's why there's no illustrations today, or I would have them, but I'm going to have them when I talk about this in detail, and I'm going to have actual maps. You know, like we did in the locker room, Mark, where I pulled up. We're doing that. We're going to do that because you guys, when you get an understanding, and we're going to break it down, structure lakes and natural grass lakes, because they're different. Okay. They're different, but they're not different. The only difference is you're predicated in the grass in a grass lake. Structure lakes, you're predicated on structure. And now you got to pick the right structure. So that's what's going to be coming up in the future.
All right. I want to pick your brain on this, and it might be a combination of what we're talking about and what we're going to talk about, or what you're going to talk about in the future. But one of the most frustrating things about fishing when the cooling down takes place is the fish start schooling. They really do. I mean, they start schooling, but sometimes you just cannot get into a school that has keepers. We see a lot of smaller fish that like to school this time of the year. That's something that I think the fans, I know I would like to know, is how to really attack schooling fish, especially this time of the year. Because, Frank, I'm telling you, I have been enormously frustrated sometimes where they're schooling all over the place. You see 3 and 4 pounders schooling coming completely out of the water.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Chasing shad, you walk over there and you got a 12 or a 13 incher.
Right, because what's happening, I'll give you the quick scenario on that. You can't get a bait down to the big ones, okay? That's the problem. The smaller fish are way more aggressive, and so you have to kind of almost not necessarily change your approach, but you have to try to appeal to the bigger bass and not so much to the smaller, more aggressive ones. And the trick to that is getting below them. You got to get below them, because the bigger ones will feed on the cripples. They do the same thing when they're following the stripers and the hybrids. Okay. They get below them and they feed on the cripples. But because you got good hybrid and striper lakes by you, you can't even get a lure past a striper or a hybrid. You know what I mean? But if you do, you will catch the big largemouth, because they are with those fish. Yeah. They just do that. That's the nature of this pelagic forage base. Everybody gets to eat them. It's just where in the water column are they eating them? Now, with the schooling bass this time of year, if you're really lucky, okay, you might find a school that is only 3 to 5 pounders. You know what I mean? That's the golden thing. But here's the problem. They're always moving. So if you find schoolers over here today, they might be 150, 200 yards down the lake tomorrow because they're not relating to the structure. They're relating to the shad. And so that's where chasing schoolers becomes frustrating. But it's fun nonetheless because everything is visual. I mean, you see them, you're like, whoa, you run over there, shut the boat down, jump on the front deck and start going at it. You know what I mean? It's a fast, fun way to fish. But in a tournament situation, you have to figure out how to get the bigger bites. I'll go to a CC spoon a lot in that situation, get right on top of the shad, even though you're going to push them. You got to get right over them and drop the spoon down, watch it, and I'm fishing off of my locator the whole time because I want to watch the spoon flutter down there, and when I see the bass below it, I don't want it to go past the bass. I want to stay just above them. So if I can get the spoon down through the schools of shad and the smaller bass, I can catch a bigger quality bass doing that. So that's kind of that's a trick of it, but there's so many different techniques for that. And now today with forward facing sonar, like live target and stuff like that, you'll see what you need to see on that screen. And you'll be like, okay, there's the small ones. Oh, but over here is a pot of big ones. And that pot of big ones might be, 15 yards away from the feeding frenzy. So now that forward facing sonar is going to help chasing schoolers now.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can
crazy.
remember 30 years ago, what a friend of mine used to do, that we used to fish team tournaments together. When they started schooling like that, ways haven't changed. I mean, I'm over there throwing a topwater. You know what he's using? He's using a DD22.
Yeah, heck yeah, dude. That's the trick.
Yeah.
And you're throwing it on the fringes. Yeah. You're throwing it on the fringes of it, and you're getting the DD because the DD22 swims down to depth. So it's a perfect bait for that. Even the deep little end swims down. It's the perfect bait for that because it's swimming through the shad. And it's not a hard diver where it dives straight down like a fat free shad will dive straight down. A Strike King XD will dive straight down. The DD22 swims down, so you could swim it right through those fish. Okay, and it's a real natural way that looks going by, and the bass can't stand it. Suspending bass can't stand that bait. It's a great bait. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. We do it all the time.
Hey, it's a great time of the year to take somebody out that doesn't really fish or wants to get into fishing. Even if you're only catching, 13, 14 inchers, you said it, that visual. That's what got me hooked. It's a perfect opportunity to take people out and do that.
Yeah, and you got to understand something. If you're it's a perfect time for kids as long as the water's not too cold or the air temperature, because they don't care what they catch. They just want to catch something. Yeah. I used to fish with my kids all the time when they were little, and I'd go out of my mind because I couldn't bass fish. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't bass fish. I got to watch these kids all the time, And so when I realize that when I'm taking somebody fishing that never has fished before, it's not for me, it's for them. So then I make sure they catch them, and I don't even hardly fish. I just fish to make sure I'm still on them, but it's mostly for them. And it's been some of the best times in my life is teaching people who've never fished before how to do it. It's so much fun, and they get addicted to it, just like we did. Yeah, no difference.
All right, I have placed the Sunline hotline number up there, 405-253-5543. Call, ask Frank a question, and then hang up, and he will respond to the question that you have.
Maybe.
Maybe. No, you will.
I will.
Maybe.
I will.
Yeah.
Always will. So, this time of year is fun. It's going to get a little stingy once the turnover happens, but wait a week and it'll be the best fishing on the planet. The other thing I got a DM. I told you this gentleman named Ty was DM me this morning, and he had said, hey, I'm doing all this map work on the lake I live on. And he showed me a picture of his GPS, but it was tiny because he wanted to get the whole lake in it. The whole entire thing was nothing but blue dots. You couldn't even see the lake. And I know the lake he's talking about really well. You couldn't even see the lake. It was all blue dots. So he's like, yeah, I went on Google Earth and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I said, you know what? That's a cool thing. Let me touch on it real quick. In my first couple seasons on the elites, I think back then, what was it, Mark? The top 100 or the top 50? Top 150.
Top 150. It
top
was
150.
Top 150.
Yeah. So when I made it to the first time, I never saw any of the lakes that we went to. So I did two things: Google Earth, and you can go to the library and you can get 7.5-minute geological survey maps of the reservoirs. Now they don't have them for natural lakes, but they have them for all the reservoirs, because when they are planning to flood something, they take these geological survey maps to determine, when they build the dam, how high the water's going to go,
okay,
where it's going to reach out to and stuff. So, and they're called 7.5-minute geological survey maps. And what they are is they're actual 1 foot increments of the lake prior to flooding. Now, sometimes it's hard when all the trees are still there to get a grip on it. But if they cut the trees down for that particular body of water, it's not much nicer, because now you can see everything. You can see the old foundations, old buildings, road beds, etc. It's really kind of a cool thing. Now, it's a lot of research, okay?
Yeah.
But it's well worth it. It's well worth it, especially on a lake you've never been, or even on your home lake that you just want to know more about, that you just don't have the time to spend hours and hours side imaging and down imaging. You can do this on a 7.5-minute geological survey map, and some places have aerial photos of those lakes prior to flooding.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. Hey, you're on with Frank. Who is this?
Hey, are you guys there?
Yeah. Who do we have here?
Hey, Mark. This is Pat Beltman down in Fellsmere, Florida.
Okay. What's on your mind, man?
Florida Wildlife Commission just sprayed a lake to kill the hyacinths. It's a 4-foot deep lake filled with hyacinths and hydrilla. And they just sprayed it, and the tournament's going to go on in 2 weeks. What do we do?
All right. Hang up and listen, man. Thanks for calling.
All right, brother.
All right. Appreciate it. All right, Frank. What are your thoughts?
All right, Pat. Here's what the problem with that is. When they spray the vegetation, it dies rapidly. Okay? Rapid dying and decaying vegetation consumes oxygen, and the fish will vacate it. All right? They got to be where they can breathe. So they'll leave those areas. There's a trick, though. You got to find the green grass. You're going to focus only around green vegetation at this time. And then look for places where, in some of the Florida lakes, you have real marshy stuff where they probably don't spray. And then bulrushes, cattails, bulrushes, that stuff comes into play. Deeper shell beds come into play. Now, you said the entire lake is 4 feet deep. Those fish have to go somewhere. So maybe you're going to look at areas that didn't have a lot of grass to begin with, and fish bank-related stuff in those places, keeping the fish away from the oxygen-depleted areas of the heavy spraying. Now, I don't think they spray an entire body of water. I think what they do is they spray trouble spots in the water. So in other words, if the south end of the lake has the most hyacinths and the heaviest concentration of hydrilla, they'll spray the south end. So now your job becomes, you have to look for green grass. You absolutely have to look for the green grass, and then also take into consideration that some of your deeper grass won't be affected so much by the spray. And that grass, that deeper carpet, might not be grass tall to the ceiling, but it might be, short grass. That will still remain green. So you may have to back off and look for stuff like that.
Jim said, get a green leaf twig and put treble hooks on it.
Because we're fishing for grass carp.
That's pretty creative right there.
It's very creative.
All right. Let's see here. On the instant feedback.
That's funny.
Frank in Michigan wants to know, what time during the day is the best time to catch bigger schooling fish? Does time of the day even really matter? It's all about the bait fish, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the bait fish gives you the locations. Low light, early morning conditions are always better. Yeah. But as the water temperature starts to get really cold, like I'm talking, 50 degrees or lower, I have seen where I've hammered them in the morning and sometimes I've hammered them in the afternoon. So it's still kind of but anytime your low light conditions always seem to be a little bit better, except in the wintertime. In the wintertime, I like the day parts better in the winter. But in the fall, it's just going to be, anybody's guess right now. I mean, the water temperatures here are between 66 and 69 degrees. So we're still not really cold, super cold yet. You know what I mean?
All right, back to the phones. Hey, hang on a second. If you're listening and you call in, make sure you turn the volume down on your computer or whatever you're listening to us on live. We get feedback if you don't turn the volume down. So let's go to the phones now. Okay. Hey, you're on with Frank and Mark. Who is this?
Hey, this is Doug.
Doug, you working, man? You at work?
Doug's working.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a question for Frank? He went away. I guess sound like a forklift going on in the background.
Yeah, that poor guy was at work, and he's probably getting written up.
Yelled at. It's all your fault, Frank.
Yeah, sorry, man. Sorry, Doug. The answer to your question is,
Jeez.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be an idiot on air.
Yeah, I give it up to him, man. The dude's trying to get some juice while he's working
Why not?
away.
Why not?
That's pretty cool.
There's a lot of guys that listen at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is super cool.
I thought he was going to call back, but he didn't call back.
He may. Maybe he's in a bad spot with cell phone service. Huh. But spraying the grass, I'm not a big fan of that. An acre of grass can hold and harbor way more fish than an acre of any other cover or structure.
Do they do that in Ohio? Do they?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anywhere there's pleasure boaters, because God forbid there's grass by their boat dock. I mean, it actually, when they first removed the grass from the lake, it's like insane fishing. I don't mean when they spray it and it all dies. I mean the first time it doesn't grow back.
Yeah.
Fishing is crazy because these bass are all used to being in the grass, and now they're not. They're concentrating on structure, and it's a free for all. But that starts to wane after a while because now they're picking different parts of the lake to live in, and their behavior changes, and there's not as many little bass that survive anymore. Yeah. And so the population starts to suffer.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Hey, you're on BTL with Mark and Frank. Who is this?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Who is this?
Hey, this is Lee from North Carolina.
Lee, you have a question for Frank, man?
Yeah, I do have a question for Frank. My question is, I'm in a similar situation to Matt, where I'm fixing to try to do like the opens and stuff, but I don't know how to take the next step and actually get better in my fishing. I'm doing decent in BFLs and local stuff around the house, but I don't know how to take that next step. And what would he advise on how to get better past just being able to fish all the time? Because I have a wife, kids, a job. Like, that's not 100% an option to just be out there every day. But thank you guys. I love the show.
All right, man. Thanks. Frank, what do you think?
Well, Lee, the only thing I can tell you is that if you have aspirations of taking it to the next level, just go to the next level, which would be the opens or FLW equivalent, which I'm not sure what that is, but just take it to the next level. Look, the Bassmaster Opens are a little more friendly. There's only 3 events in each division. So dip your feet into one division that's close to your house, that stays close to where you are. And if you're in North Carolina, it's probably going to be the Southern Division. And dip your feet in it. It's only 3 events, but put your time into that division. In other words, let's say you're in North Carolina and one of the lakes is 5 hours from your house. Okay, that the Southern Division's going to. Instead of fishing your local lake 20 times in a month, take 5 days extra and go to fish that particular body of water that the tournament's going to be on, to learn it, to get familiar with it. So you're putting more odds in your favor because you only have 3 events to focus on.
Hey, I'll say this, Frank, and I don't know how often this happens, but I do know it happens for somebody that's in his situation. One of the coolest things that can actually help you and really create that environment that is needed from a learning process is to have a mentor. In other words, to have somebody in your area that has been at that level that you're trying to get to and can really kind of guide you and put together a plan for you that is on and off the water to have success. There's no better replacement of information than somebody that's been through it already, both on and off the water. And now, I mean, electronics, let's face it, electronics are coming into play so much from a tournament standpoint. There's probably not a single guy at Smith Lake, and I know they were fog delayed today, but there's probably not a single guy that is not dialing them in with forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, and I'm all about technology and advancement in the sport. But here's the thing, okay? On a competition level, on the pro level, if you don't have the electronics, it's hard to compete.
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
On the local level, it's not so bad.
No, I agree with you, man. All right, I think he's back. Let's see. Let's go to the phones. Hey, who is this?
Hey, Mark and Frank. It's Doug from Ohio.
Doug.
I have a quick question for Frank. He said a while back about having the Norman crankbaits, and he would throw them until they got to a certain sound, and then he would keep those for tournaments and only throw them in tournaments. If he could maybe elaborate on that a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, there you have it.
That's a great question. I actually love that question because this is so hyper focused on how I am. Okay. I've been fishing forever, like literally forever, since I was, yay high. And I always noticed that I would be throwing crankbaits and all of a sudden a certain crankbait would just seem like it was a magical bait. Okay. And then I would put a little black dot underneath the chin of the crankbait, like a tiny spot with a Sharpie, and that would be my go-to bait. All right. If I was in a tournament situation, because I had so much confidence that bait was going to catch them. Well, as I started to grow up and learn more about the certain materials that crankbaits were made from, et cetera, I started to realize what was going on. So Norman crankbaits are made of butyrate plastic. It's softer than ABS. It has a different sound than ABS, okay, based on the rattle chamber. It's a deeper, duller, it's more of a thuddy sound than a high-pitched clacking sound. It's more thuddy. I found that the bass really can zero in on that thuddy sound. Well, I noticed that while I catch bass on all my Norman crankbaits, I noticed that some over time would start to become really special. Okay. So what I found out was that as this rattle chamber, as the bead the rattle goes back and forth in that chamber, it creates a little bit of dust, plastic dust in there, and it changes the sound slightly. And so I started to believe in my head that that was the magical thing. Well, over the course of time, I found out it to be true. You know what I mean? So as you use a bait more often, it's going to start to have a different sound to it. Now, we may not be able to hear it by putting it in your hand and shaking it by your ear, but the fish can hear it because sound travels faster and, in water or farther in water. The water's dense. They actually can feel vibrations with their lateral lines and everything else. So that's what I mean when I say that over time, some baits actually get better.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Hey, you're on BTL with Mark and Frank. Who is this?
This is Bill from St. Louis, Missouri.
Bill, how you doing, man? What's on your mind?
Question for Uncle Frank. I was watching a previous episode of Day 4 in which he was talking about the Bomber Long A24. And specifically, like I fish Missouri lakes, obviously, Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks. What preferred colors would he recommend for those type of lakes? And when I was visiting LureNet, I noticed they have a ton of color options, but when you try to select the ones, they're just not available. I just assume that LureNet is having supply issues just like everybody else in the country. That's pretty much it. I love watching your show, and I'm an avid fan of everybody there.
Thank you. Thanks for calling, man. All right, Frank.
Way to go, Bill. I love the 24A, Bill. Love it. Table Rock, especially Table Rock, anything you can use that has a little bit of chartreuse on the sides, a little bit of white on the belly is going to be money. And anything naturally shad looking is going to be money. The trick that I do on Table Rock with the 24A is I'll wrap lead around the front hook and the back hook. I'll try to make the bait want to rise as slow as it can. I don't make it a true suspender, make it so it rises super slow. That's really the trick. And then the other thing is I don't slap hard it like a regular crankbait. I'm not whack, whack, whack. I pull it down, twitch, twitch, let it sit. Pull it, twitch, twitch, let it sit. Here's the unique characteristic about the 24A. One of my all-time 100% favorite jerk baits is the 24A, especially when I got to get the jerk bait down to deeper water situations, aka like Table Rock or Lake Erie or any of the Great Lakes for that matter. The whole key to that is getting it to do a slow rise, not a suspend. So what I do is I fill my sink with ice and water. Get a thermometer. I get the temperature down, way down. I try to get it down around 45 degrees. Start wrapping lead around the two hooks. I throw it in the sink so it nosedives, and then I watch it come up. If it comes up too fast, I put a little more lead, throw it back in, and once it starts to just slowly want to rise, okay, I take the lead off, see how much lead I used, and then I pre-measure them. And then I wrap all my hooks for it on that, like that. Or I can put a little bit of lead tape on the belly. If I put lead tape on the belly of them, I have the ability to custom paint mine. So I usually will lead tape them, but if I'm in a hurry, I'll wrap the hooks. If I lead tape them, I just get white electrical tape, cut it as thin as my lead tape, and stick it on the belly. It won't come off till you take it off. And that gives you the white belly appearance instead of just the raw lead tape.
Yeah.
Those are the tricks. But as far as color goes, dude, you just got to look at the bait, think about Table Rock, think about the colors you're throwing on there. Like, Table Rock shad is a good color. Anything with a little bit of chartreuse in it, the dark purpley back or the silver gray black back. They have one. It looks like it's black and gold and orange, but it's not gold. It's actually a chartreuse insert in there, but it looks gold because of the overspray that comes down the bait. That's a pretty good color too. On Table Rock, I'll tape the orange. I want the white belly on Table Rock.
It's kind of a forgotten color. I just thought of this because of Table Rock and back in the day, is clown. Who
Oh,
uses
yeah.
clown?
Oh,
still?
up here, everybody.
Really?
Because of the smallmouth fishing. Up here,
Okay.
everybody uses clown. Clown's a good table rock color, especially if you get a transparent clear clown. In some of the rogues, we have that.
Yeah.
Yo,
All right.
it's money.
Let's go to the phones. Hey, you're on BTL with Mark and Frank. Who is this?
Hey, this is Justin Welch out of Arizona. How's it going, Mark?
It's going good, man.
Hey, I know that name.
Yeah, yeah. You got a question for Frank, man?
Yes, sir, I do. Hey, Frank, what's going on, man? I'd like Frank to talk about our deeper reservoirs out here in this time of year out here in Arizona, where we're running anywhere from 20 foot down to 80 foot, and a lot of times we got shad that are running those banks, and I think a lot of times guys get intimidated by that. I'd like to hear Frank's perspective on it.
All right, man. Thanks for calling. Take care.
All right, cool.
All right,
see you boys later.
All right, Frank.
First off, Justin, hi, dude. The steep bank, deep bank lakes, like you guys got in Arizona, guys can get easily intimidated by that. But you got to remember that the bass will behave the same. The bass in those lakes will use the steeper banks because that's primarily what they have. The main thing they have to focus on. There's a million different ways to catch them like that. Not a million, but there's a lot of different ways to catch them like that. Paralleling the steep edges with deep diving crankbaits, DD22s, for example, really good in those conditions because they swim down, so you could swim them through the suspending fish when they're on those real vertical structure breaks. When they're suspending off of those structure breaks, it's another same thing. Good deal. In the fall, topwater on bluffs can be fantastic. Topwater bluff fishing can be just crazy good. And so could throwing jerk baits along bluffs. I did that on the Clinch River, and it was freezing cold. It was a February tournament, and I was catching them using like a 15A bomber and using it almost like a topwater, and then pumping it down and then letting it float back up, twitch it on top, pump it back down. I was doing that, using that and a bango lure, the one with the prop bait that just goes down, and throwing a crazy shad. Really crazy stuff. Now, a lot of times you'll get suspended and you can actually drop shot the suspended fish. Don't let your drop shot go to the bottom. Keep your drop shot above the suspended bass. So you might be over 80 feet of water. The fish might be 35 feet deep, and you're vertical right on top of them. And of course, spoons. The CC spoon, the War Eagle spoon. Those spoons are really good for straight up and down vertical jigging. That's kind of how I play it. You know what I mean? You just got to see what the conditions are giving you, because sometimes in those steep canyon type reservoirs, the bass will be on the bank, even though the bank goes down and then drops off to 50 feet. They'll still be plastered right on the rocks at some depth level.
Very cool.
You just want to look at that.
Hey, real quick, Maynard wants to know, how long is the 24A? About how long?
It comes in at right around almost just under 4 inches.
Okay.
It's a short bodied bait. It's a beautiful bait, dude. It's a short body bait. I really want to bring that bait to the bass community in a big fluffy way. But it's a process, and I'm working on it.
All right. Our good friend JB3 has a question for you. Uncle Frank, I found a few pockets on Murray in South Carolina that have huge bait balls in the back, but I don't see any action on the bait. Am I too early to be in the back? What are your thoughts?
Well, if the bait's back there, you're never too early to be back there. There's bound to be fish on them. If you're not seeing activity like fish blowing up on those balls of bait, It's probably because they're in the guts in those pockets, because I can bet you dollars to a donut they're shallow pockets. They're short pockets, not necessarily shallow in water depth, but short pockets. What I have a tendency to do there is then I fish the deep gut in those pockets, go right in the middle of the pocket where it necks down, and I fish the gut in the middle, because a lot of times the bass will be down there underneath those shad, and I'll throw crankbaits on them. Depending on the depth range will depend on what crankbait you throw. Big O excels on that situation because it doesn't hit the bottom. You know, a lot of your baits that run 6 to 8, if the deepest part in the gut's 10 or 12, your crankbaits that run 6 to 8 are money. If it's super deep, you know, even deeper than that, then you could go to your deeper diving ones. And if it's a shallow pocket, you can go to your shallower baits.
All right. Cool stuff, man. I'm going to have to go dig out the clowns.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
the clowns, man.
The clowns, dude. Clown was such a good color for so long, and it kind of, I think people got bored with seeing it, because it still works to this day. It's still a crazy major fish catching color is clown. So if you look at some of the rogues, I did some clear clowns, you know, clear colored clowns, did some funky things with the clown pattern just to keep it fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Here, I need to we'll take one more phone call if somebody wants to call in.
Yay,
I will
one more.
take the number down, and we'll look forward to next week. But no, I'm excited to hear. Like I said, my favorite time of the year. Obviously, I love sight fishing and doing that, but that's, you know, it doesn't last, and you got to have the perfect scenario a lot of times to be able to do that.
I know.
Shoot,
And
this
timing.
time of the year, it doesn't matter, man. They're out there, they're getting after it.
Oh yeah, they're putting the feedback on, and it's going to get better. It'll get better after the turnover, but it'll take about a week once the lake flops. It'll take about a week, but then it'll be off the hook, and then you're going to go right to winter pattern after that.
Let me ask you this, Frank. In the springtime, and there's a lot of reservoirs, lakes in the Midwest, and even some in Texas and in Arkansas, where sand is a key factor early.
Yeah.
Does sand come into play in the fall too?
I'm not so sure about for largemouth and spotted bass, but the smallmouth they'll play in the sandbox.
Play in the sandbox.
You know, they'll play in the sand, but man, it's a crazy thing because it's almost structureless. It's almost featureless. You know what I mean?
Why is that? What's going on there? Do you know? Have any idea?
Biologically, I don't know. You know, I think for one, it's different than the surroundings of all rock and grass.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden you got this open sand spot. I think it's easy for them to run down prey for sure over sand. I know that your perch will gravitate towards the grass edges on those sandy spots. When perch spawn, they actually lay ribbons of eggs in the grass along the sand edges or onto something. You know, they don't fan beds like other fish do. So I think that's got a lot to do with it as well.
Well, I know here there's been a lot of people that have focused on the sand because the sand heats up quickly early in the year. That's the other thing, you know, and they kind of flock up there. It's not a food thing or anything. It's more of a heat structure thing. All right, check this one out from Travis. Does anything change for Frank on these really warm October days? For example, in Missouri this weekend, it's going to be in the low 90s. Does that change your approach?
No, the air temperature doesn't change my approach to anything in the fall. The only thing I do is if I'm on fish, I stay on those fish. In other words, if I know what the pattern is, I don't pay attention to the air temperature. If I don't know what the pattern is, I don't pay attention to the air temperature because I'm trying to find a pattern. So once I find the pattern, then I'm okay. But what happens on the hot October days, it slows the cooling water temperature down. It's not necessarily going to make it bounce all the way back up. It's just going to slow it the way it cools down because the nights are still getting cool. And so what happens is it's just instead of your water temperature going boom down like that, it's just gradually slowing down. So once you're on the pattern, you're on the pattern. The air temperature doesn't make much bit of difference.
All right, we're gonna wrap things up here, but I wrote down what a fan sent me, and it's pretty epic. Okay, now here, let me do this.
Oh gosh,
first.
Can we air it?
I'm really kind of walking the line here, but
I say go over the line. Every now and then you got to go over the line.
Okay, it's referred back to this video that we showed earlier.
Norman Deep ABN. Look at that. That's just insane. That's insane.
All right. So,
that's a crankbait that dives 6 to 8 feet, guys. And I'm ripping it through a bush that's in 4 feet of water to the surface.
And it's called what?
Deep ABN.
The Deep ABN. So his comment was, get a t-shirt with Frank's picture from the previous show. The flowing locks that you had.
For crying out loud.
Okay. And then put a picture of that bait side by side. And underneath, the quote is, goes through bush like crazy. Oh my gosh. Frank, that fan right there is epic. He is a thinker. He has creativity.
Oh my God.
Do you think those would sell like crazy?
He's got to win something.
Oh
he's got to win something, man. Hey, dude, DM me or send something to Mark with your phone number and address.
How good is that?
I'm going to send it.
Crazy.
I got to send him something, man.
Oh my God. Now you know why I lost it when I saw that flash up.
I know when you started laughing, I thought I swore by accident, because sometimes I'll just throw a few choice words in a description of mine.
Geez.
Oh my God!
The bait and that picture with the look goes through bush like crazy.
Oh my God!
Frank.
We have stooped. Hey guys, we have just stooped to a new low level on BTL day 4.
Wow.
Day 4.
For him to think of that though, that's off the chart creativity right there.
Or perversion, either or.
No, nothing to do with it, man.
I think that's fantastic. I swear to God, dude. Name, address, and number. I'm gonna send you some.
Oh. That is just
it's so funny. I hope my marketing compadre at LureNet is listening to this, because right now he probably just spit his coffee all over his computer screen.
Oh, one of the epic moments on day 4 right there, and when it flashed up on the screen, I just I had to maintain. It was very difficult to maintain my composure there, Frank, but very, very solid shirt right there.
I'm just, like I said, dude, send Mark or DM me your name and number.
All right. That's awesome. All right, folks, that's going to wrap things up here on day 4. Another tremendous piece of information from Frank. Make sure you check out everything on day 4. If you've missed some, go back, watch. Listen, learn.
Yeah, holy shit! Yeah, holy shit on the Deep ABN is up on Paint Shop.
All right,
LureNet
Good
Paint
stuff.
Shop.
All right, we will be back on Monday. Hopefully, Matt will be sitting to the right of me.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Don't forget, my late fall crankbait video is out right now. It'll really help you guys see where these fish are going to winter eventually.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. Boomer Sooner, baby. Let's see what happens on Saturday in the Big D. You don't care about that, do you, Frank?
I care about, the Cleveland Browns right now.
Yeah, they're playing good. If Mayfield, he didn't play that well last weekend.
No, but you know what? Everybody, he's got a bad shoulder. He got cremated in the last game. Everybody's going to have bad games.
Yeah.
He's a workhorse, dude. Look, he may not be the number 1 quarterback on the planet, but he's consistently a workhorse, and he'll get the job done. And at the end of the day, we won the game.
Good point.
Hey, I don't care if I win a bass tournament by 2 ounces or 20 pounds. All I care about is the W.
Good point. Good point. All right, everybody, have fun this weekend. That's it. We're out of here.